So in this video, I'm going to share with you guys how to have more enthusiasm, some practical things that you guys can do in your everyday life towards being able to develop a new level of enthusiasm so that you can influence people in a powerful way, not in a manipulative way, but just in a way where you're able to express yourself 100%, and then ultimately how you can feel more of that passion underneath everything that you do so that ultimately you feel more passion in general. So this video is going to involve three main ideas. The first one is going to be me sharing a story with you guys of how I came to find my voice, how I developed my enthusiasm and my passion. The second thing that I'm going to do is give you guys some practical tools that you can use towards developing that passion and enthusiasm. The third thing that I'm going to do is share with you guys my own type of theory that I have about the idea of enthusiasm and how we can influence the way that we feel through being and feeling that enthusiasm over time, how we can condition ourselves to do that. Well, first off, let's check the first one off the list. It's the idea of a story. So I'm going to take you all the way back to my sophomore year of high school. Now, sophomore year of high school, I decided that I wanted to do forensics debate. Now, there were a couple reasons for this. The first reason was because I figured at the time that I wanted to be a lawyer, and I was like, oh, well, you know, this would be great because I'm going to learn how to talk in front of other people. I'm going to learn how to argue and stuff like that. So that was my first reason for doing it. My second reason for doing it was because I developed like a fear of speaking, because all the way back in 7th grade, I was doing a school project in front of the class and presenting, and halfway through, I completely like blanked. I forgot everything I was supposed to say, and it was like this awkward silence, and from that point on, I just thought I was afraid of speaking. So I was like, oh, this will be great. I'm going to have two things that I'm going to be able to like knock off my list. I'm going to be able to learn more about speaking in general, and we'll see where it goes. So I became part of the forensics debate team. Now, let me explain to you a little bit about what this meant. Well, in forensics debate, what you do is every month you go to a tournament, and in this tournament, there are certain topics for every event that are going to be spoken about. You develop a case for that topic for the affirmative and the negative. And the reason is because when you go, you don't get to pick which one you are. It'll change throughout the day because you might go 4 or 5 rounds of debates, and in each one you're going to be something different. There's judges at these debates, so it's something that you do kind of competitively. Now, I remember my first or second tournament that I went to, I was still very new with it, and I was learning as much as I could, but I remember that I went into my very first or second debate, and I was with a partner. It was a partner debate, so one other person from my school, we were going against these 2 other people from different schools, and I remember that they were the affirmative, so they got up to speak, and when they did, their style of speaking was they were just like screaming. They were just like, I mean screaming, but they were like speaking really loud. They were like yelling their case, no tonality, no enthusiasm. It was just like if I were to come up in front of you right now and be like, you know, it is resolved that juveniles charged with violent crimes should be charged and punished as adults and blah, 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 blah. It was like just completely monotone after that. Now, naturally, when I heard that, I was like, oh, maybe this is the way we're supposed to be giving our debate. Or this is how we're supposed to be speaking. So when I went up, I mirrored that. I did like the same exact thing. And I bet the judge was like, why the hell are these kids yelling while they're saying they're speaking? You know, why are they yelling while they speak? But what I did after that was I kind of looked back at it and kind of laughed. And I was like, oh, that's kind of ridiculous. Just like, you know, saying things really loud, no enthusiasm. And it really triggered something inside of me to where from that point going forward, I wanted to learn more about how to develop more enthusiasm. I wanted to learn how I could become more passionate about what I'm speaking about. And that's what kind of triggered it for me. So from that point, I began to study people that were already good speakers. I began to see how their voice fluctuated when they spoke. And I ended up actually applying the idea of band to it. Now, the reason being is because I remember in band, there was, you know, you can relate if you did band or orchestra or you know how to read sheet music, but the idea is that there's certain notes that have a certain tone, and then you'll have like contrast in the music. So you'll have things that end up getting really loud, and then you'll have things that get kind of soft. That's a crescendo and a decrescendo. Now, what I did is I applied those ideas towards speaking, and I learned how to use my voice in that way. I learned how to have a little bit more fluctuation with the things that I was saying, and how to really generate a state within me of passion. So what I would do is I would talk about things that I was already passionate about, and I would notice how I spoke about those. And then what I do is I would apply that level of speaking into whatever I was speaking about. So, for example, if it was, you know, me doing that topic of juveniles charged with violent crimes should be charged and punished as adults, which was one of the topics that I debated in high school for a month. And the idea was I was then able to be passionate about that. Even though I wasn't really passionate one way or the other, I learned how to develop passion by first off speaking about something that I was passionate about, and then using that way of speaking towards something else that maybe I wasn't passionate about. But what I found was funny is that then I would develop passion for it, because what I would do is I would apply it, that energy towards it, and then from that I would get better effects from it. Now, when I began to do this, this is when my results began to skyrocket. From me learning how to speak with enthusiasm, I became very passionate about it, and then from that point, I began to actually place in finals, semifinals. I began to get, like trophy, there's award ceremonies after every single tournament, and began to actually place at these tournaments and stuff like that, and that came straight up from having passion for what I was speaking about. So that's how I found my voice. I then began to learn that this is what I really want to do for a living, is speak, is present, is share ideas. It's something that I really just enjoy doing. It's something that I get into a flow state when I do it. And that's my perspective of the idea of enthusiasm in general. Now, to the second part of this video, it's going to be on me sharing some practical tools that you can apply in your own life towards developing enthusiasm. So the first thing I want you to do is to simply know and believe that you can be enthusiastic. Now, a lot of people will say, I just don't have enthusiasm, or I just don't have passion in life. Well, that might be something that people experience, but that's not actually true. There's something that you are passionate about. Now, this could simply be somebody, for example, that plays video games, right? They're not really passionate about much other than video games. But even when they're playing video games, what you'll begin to notice is that if they were playing a video game, for example, and they were like shooting shit and they got killed or something, how do they say, how do they respond to that? They're like, shit, this person just killed me. I should have gone behind that building. That person wouldn't have happened. This would have been a different situation. They speak with passion when they're speaking about it because it's something that they actually enjoy doing. So everybody has some level of passion, even if that passion is doing something that you don't normally think should be something that you are passionate about. First off, realize that you are passionate about something. Now, from that point of view, what you can then do is apply the way that you speak about that towards other areas of your life. Now, the way that you do this is through simply practice. So what you could do is you could look into your eyes in the mirror every day for just a minute or two a day, and you can say things in a passionate way. And what I found to do is to do this first thing in the morning right when you wake up. And there's a couple different reasons for this, but one of the reasons is because I read it in a book called Think and Grow Rich, which is one of the best books that I've ever read. I highly encourage you to read it if you haven't already. But what Napoleon Hill talks about in that book is the ability to develop enthusiasm by saying your definite purpose every single day in front of a mirror, even if it's just for a minute or two. Now, a definite purpose is something that you write out that's your passion. That's what you love doing. It's a compelling vision for what you want to accomplish in your life. Now, what you can do is you can write this out and you can say it in front of a mirror for just a minute or two a day and say it with passion. Learn how to speak in a way that you feel like the energy is moving through you. And the idea is that if that's a vision that's really compelling to you, it'll be very easy for you to begin over time to develop that passion for it, for speaking like it. Now, what I find when I do this, it leaks into other areas of my life. So if I do it for maybe 2 minutes in the morning every day, I find that throughout the day, I have that passion that I was speaking right when I woke up. I have that passion towards other areas that I'm doing. Like when I speak to other people, I still speak with that passion. I think that we're able to let that bleed into other areas of our life. That if we have passion when we're doing that in the morning, we'll see it and we'll feel it when we're talking to other people throughout the day. Now, another reason that I do this right when I wake up in the morning is because it's one of the most powerful times towards influencing our subconscious mind. Now, our subconscious mind rules most of our life, and what we found is that there's certain different levels of brainwave activity, brainwave patterns, and so what we found with brainwave activities is that through the deeper levels of brainwave activities, we have more of an effect on the subconscious mind. So imagine the idea of when you're sleeping, you're in what is called a delta state. Then what happens is as you begin to wake up, you're in a theta state, which is kind of described as the in-between state of being awake and asleep, kind of like a daydream. And then what you do is you go to what is called an alpha state. And in an alpha state, you're in a very relaxed state. When you're watching TV, you're in an alpha state, which is why it's very important for you to pay attention to what you're watching, because that's influencing your subconscious mind. And then you begin to get into what is called the beta state. The beta state is the very alert state that we get into throughout our day. day. So what we can do right when we wake up in the morning is we can influence ourselves more powerfully by understanding that when we're moving through those states in the morning for about the first half hour of our day, we're starting to really get into that alpha beta state. So what we can do is we can influence ourselves more strongly if we get up every day and speak with enthusiasm, look into our own eyes in the mirror, learn how to develop that enthusiasm by just speaking about what you're already passionate about, begin to feel that passion from within. That will have a profound effect on our life because we're then affecting the subconscious mind that runs most of our life experience. So just kind of a practical tip that I want to give you guys is something I found to be very powerful, because then it leaks into other areas of your life. It kind of sets the tone for the day a little bit. And that's something I think that can really have a profound effect on you being able to develop passion by feeling it within, by speaking about something you're already passionate about, and then applying it towards other areas of your life. Now, the third part of this video that I wanted to speak to you about is this idea of understanding how we can influence our mind by influencing the way that we're speaking. Now, I did a video prior on the idea of how our posture can change our life, how having better posture and how our body language shapes who we are. Now, I based that talk on a famous Amy Cuddy talk, who's a body language expert. It's one of the most top TED Talks of all time. She talks about how body language shapes who we are. The idea is that if we stand in a power pose for just 2 minutes a day, which means that we just put our hands on our hips, we look straight ahead, and we put our chest out. If we do that, we're going to change the neurochemistry, the physiology of our body, the hormones in our body. We're going to release more dopamine and more serotonin, more testosterone, which is the confidence and the feel-good chemicals of our body, and we're going to decrease the cortisol, which is the stress hormone in our body. So she shows that through research, through experiments that she's done, and I talked about that in a prior video. And what I want to say is that I think that even the enthusiasm that we have, that if we look into the mirror for just a couple minutes of a day and we begin to then feel what we're saying, we begin to speak in a fluctuating way by talking about something that we're passionate about, I believe that that can then change how we feel. So it's almost like the idea of fake it till you make it. She calls it fake it till you become it. So the idea is that, like, if, for example, you smile for just a couple minutes a day when you're not feeling very good, you begin to trick your brain into thinking that you're already happy because it'll begin to release serotonin. Now, in the same way, I believe that if we start speaking passionately about whatever we're talking about, if we begin to just speak with a fluctuation in our voice, we begin to look into the mirror at ourselves and to talk in a passionate way, that we're literally going to begin to change how we feel, and that's going to have an effect on who we are. That's going to have an effect on how we show up in the world. So that's kind of just my theory on how we can let that bleed into other areas of our life, how we can really begin to feel more passionate about who we are. So to cap off, the way that you become more enthusiastic in life, the way that you have more passion in your life, is by simply first off paying attention to what brings you passion. Pay attention to the things that you love to do, and as you begin to do that, you begin to notice that there's a certain way you speak when you're in that state, and that what you can then do is begin to practice that feeling, begin to practice that way that you're speaking, and you'll find that it then begins to literally leak into other parts of your life. From that place, you begin to create an ecosystem of passion where you're able to be more passionate readily. You're able to generate that state from within, and from that place you're going to find that you end up embodying a more passionate person, and you influence people in a positive way because that passion becomes contagious. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to like this video if you liked it, share it if you found it of value, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Alright, bye.